Hello and welcome to another episode of the Geointerview. South Asia has been a region of various distinct yet connected cultures. It has also been a region marred with complex politics, which often invites global players to the center stage. From China making inroads into the Indian neighborhood with its BRI and allied initiatives, to Myanmar's civil war, and from terror-sponsored Pakistan's shenanigans in the West to India's pragmatic and bold diplomatic maneuvers to navigate through the turbulence. And today we cover it all. And to make a clearer sense of it all, I am delighted to host Mr. Neeraj Singh Manhas, Special Advisor for South Asia at the Parley Policy Institute, subject matter expert at the Ministry of Defense, Government of India, and the Center for Joint Warfare Studies. A very good evening to you, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Digvijay. Thanks a lot for hosting me, and thanks GeoStrata team for their kind invite, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise, sir. Now, sir, first things first, what are the most pressing challenges, according to you, which are grappling the South Asian region, potentially hindering its growth and stability?
Okay, so very interesting one to start our conversation related to South Asia because my role in the current position which I hold as an advisor of South Asia at my Parley Policy Initiative. So in that also I'm closely looking after the South Asia region. So I have analyzed this thing that South Asia comprised of different 8 countries, and in these 8 countries there are a lot of different challenges. So it's just not about one thing. So if I were to talk about the pressing challenges, because there are a lot many challenges. So we have seen in terms of poverty is there, political instability between the countries is currently form of a lot of it's kind of a pain to each and every country. And of course the terrorism is one part. Then now we are often talking about the climate change also, because in the current time the climate change is basically the need of the hour, where all the countries of South Asia are focusing towards it. And that's all, these are some of the very main big challenges, I would say. And I see it because for these big challenges also, that is how the ineducate, the countries are not able to connect with each other, and they're facing a lot of hindrance, in terms of their growth and stability also. And particularly I just want to highlight which is also a very cause of concern, because the cross border terrorism, specifically we have seen between India and India and Pakistan, with the ethnic conflicts and the internal government issues which are currently there. So it complicates more and more, the kind of a form of a cooperation between two countries. So that lack of trust, that divergent strategic interests of the countries, and the influence of other external powers, like for example the China. So it actually adds and heats up the whole lot of a thing, and it creates a lot of mess around all the South Asian countries. So I believe that all these are the major concern, but eventually, but in terms of India, largely we are seeing that a lot of things are happening around, like China is coming up, Pakistan is taking up a lot of interest. And I believe our whole situation is but I would say that India being very strategically framed here at a very good position. You see all the South Asian countries, each and every South Asian countries, our neighbor is at a hostile. No country is at peace. So that gives us a kind of a strategic, hold that, this is a time that, India can also lead all these countries at a global front. So that's what I would say.
Right, so that's very excellently put. But interestingly, apart from terrorism, all the issues that you mentioned, they are a mutual concern for all these nations, right? Then what factors prevent the nations from a unanimous decision making, or rather, let's say, pursuing a harmonious program and establishing an effective regional organization, which is effective and functioning, well functioning?
Okay, so no, in that also, most of the time I've seen that, for example, I just talked about China. Look at the China's growing role in South Asia. I mean, they might be tremendously doing very well in form of economics, but see all the South Asian countries, the small countries are very much growing. They are influenced by China because they see a lot of development things from them, but they are not seeing the larger picture. the long picture, which China always tries to do. Like, for example, in case of Nepal, we have seen, in Nepal, we have seen that China has its largest foreign, it's one of its largest foreign investor since 2015. And it actually funding its rail network, which is going to connect the Kathmandu to Lhasa, Tibet. So you can well imagine, and that is just not the thing. I recently visited Nepal. I am currently seeing that the Nepal is actually turning into a China. Lot of things are related to the China oriented. These countries totally influenced by Chinese activities, and they have no problem. So when these small countries look into these big countries, the big giant country who have a hell lot of money, so they get influenced. It's just that kind of a thing, how you are motivating them, how you are strategically fitting them into their own narrative agenda. So, and the second example is Sri Lanka. We all know what happened to the Hambantota. That is totally under the control of the Chinese. Now China is a key supplier of weapons to Colombo also. Look at the Maldives, the recent example. So Maldives have totally shifted its course of foreign policy towards Beijing. So with all the major the infrastructure projects which are coming in Maldives, like for example highways there, airports are there, so they all are heavily funded by Chinese. Up to 70 to 80%, I would say, this whole country is under the debt. And now look at the position. When our neighbors are into the problem, the India is only the country which comes to save them, which always tries to fund them in terms of small funds. So that is how we have realized the importance of these small countries, whether we are in South Asia, but regionally, we have to represent our whole Asia continent as such. That is why in your previous question I also mentioned about that India still has a chance to grow in this narrative building, because that's where I believe, and I always quote wherever I'm giving interviews or I've been invited, that we need to work on that narrative part. That's where the only part where we are lacking, and that's how we are going to work on all these issues. Apart from that, I believe no country is that much heft with a lot of there are a lot of issues apart from that money thing. But if India works on this building of narrative with all these countries, with neighbors, I think that peace, cooperation, everything will come. But that will eventually will take time. We'll have to work on it.
Right, so that's a very important point that you've raised, especially regarding when you mentioned about China making inroads into the smaller nations which are lacking resources and the money to fund their dreams. Right. So what impact does this have on the region's geopolitical and economic dynamics, like as a whole? Because the nations are looking at their own economies, that yes, the Chinese are giving us money, they are giving us loans, they are giving us big projects, being made here, and we'll have better trade with them. But what is happening from a bird's eye view in the region itself?
So in the region, if you see, look, in the whole South Asia, we are currently, going through a very rough time. In the whole world, you see Middle East, you see South Asia, you see Southeast Asian country, all the countries. Everyone has their some kind of a interest, but some kind of a challenges also. I'll just focus more on South Asia, because I think largely we should focus on all these region only, because this is a very important, and as an Indian scholars, our priority should be that how we can also make India at a greatest level. We are talking about right now the Viksit Bharat, the Viksit Bharat would also, and that is the time where at by 2047 our India will retain its 100th year of independence. So I think that's the main point where India should focus, and that's the point India is actually working on. We have just worked on our economy. Gone are the times when our economy never used to fall into the first 10 pages or the first to turn 10 ranks. Now look at the position. Recently, the Niti Aayog's report stated that we have just turned into the fourth largest economy. So regional the implication you mentioned about. So definitely, when we are becoming the fourth largest economy, when we are moving towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat, when we are producing our own goods and services, weapons by Make in India, and we are moving towards, we have a aim, we have a vision that we are moving towards to the Viksit Bharat of 2047, then definitely there would be other big guys who would try to bully us. And specifically mentioning about China and Pakistan here, what happened between Pakistan, you say, on 22nd of April, the cowardly attack, Islamic terrorist attack on civilians. So I think India has had enough of its burden or extra generous the kind of efforts which we have tried to build with all these countries. But I think now it is the time where the India has take a lot of staunch measures. Definitely it will give some kind of a pain to the other neighboring countries, but we will also have to see our own national interest, our own people's priority first. That's where I think India will not bend down its standards on terms of its national sovereignty. So this is not the time where Nehru's time, or the pre 1990s time, where India used to follow NAM, non-alignment. I think our foreign policy has evolved. Our things are changing. We are into the drone warfare era where things are moving. You don't have to go fight for a war from one place to another. You can sit here and hit back your enemy country. So that's where the things are changing, and that's where we also need to evolve. No matter, it will have some kind of implication. It will definitely have its consequences. But I believe because I believe that India's narrative and India's part should also be highlighted here. So that's where I believe we are doing good, and that's where things can move ahead.
Right, so that's a very articulate explanation that you've made regarding the regional axis that we are seeing. Now, sir, with an evolving two-front war, particularly from Pakistan and China, in what ways is India strategically prepared to address this security challenge? Additionally, do you believe there is a need for any more precautionary measures that India should consider to enhance its readiness, especially when we see that today itself Beijing hosted the China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh trilateral meeting sort of thing, and when the Bangladeshi advisor says that they are the guardian of the this Bay of Bengal area and all of that stuff. How should we recalibrate our approach when we are looking at these three countries?
Okay, Digvijay, when we are also talking about the two front war situation, I believe since the time the Bangladesh has got instability, I am seeing it as a three-front war, because we guys, like in the foreign policy, have already started talking about three-front war. I believe, but anyways, because the major threat would come or definitely from China and Pakistan. So I believe that India has definitely taken a very several and strategic steps to address these the evolving, the front like situation between Pakistan and China, I would say, right now. But militarily, I would say it has really strengthened its infrastructure. You see along all the borders, whether it is in the eastern border or the western border of LAC, or from the LOC point of view also with Pakistan, lot of measures, lot of new developments have come up. New enhanced surveillance capabilities have also increased. We have deployed the numbers of advanced weaponry system. We are now even talking about the joint command, which is about to happen, but still it is in the process. But I'm very thankful that we are still on that way. And a lot of mobilization of defense procurement, also lot of emergency purchases which are we are doing it from France, like we purchased the fighter jets from them. So diplomatically also, I am seeing that India is also deepening its strategic partnership with the other countries. Like we have seen when the Donald Trump recently came into power, we were very much affectionate that we want to grow ties with US. We are very much close to France. We are very much close to Japan also, and we are a part of Quad also. So I believe that a lot of things are there, but we are all there together just to deter all these kinds of aggression. However, I also feel that just to further, enhance this, India would definitely need some kind of a more precautionary measures that are very, very essential. But because we also need to work on more on cyber security, AI, a lot of defense modernization would also the need of the hour, I would say. And the last point I believe is, the strengthening of civil military fusion. I recently have written one paper also on it, and I believe that was very much helpful for my own understanding also, where I was able to see that how much civil military fusion, what is happening in China and what we do it in India, is very less. So this is a time where actually the things can be worked upon, and our India can take a lead on it, and we're actually working on it. So this is where I believe India is currently, and these are some of the scopes where India can work.
Right, so I think India needs to close down as many fronts as it can, narratively and diplomatically as well, to make sure that there are no voices coming out when we are having something going on our northern or the western borders, right? Now, how would you articulate the strategic measures that are essential for safeguarding India's interests, specifically in the Himalayan river systems? And to speak more specifically, what steps should India take to protect its rights and security concerning the Brahmaputra river system in relation to China's upstream activities, and the Indus river system in relation to Pakistan's management and use of the shared water resources?
Okay, so out of all the question, I think this is one of a very interesting question, because I am, working on this area for a very, very long time now, and I believe this is very much close to my heart, and I have been, giving a hell lot of interviews on this. What is China doing on the the Brahmaputra, Yarlang Sangpo? So I see. As I said, the true front like situation with China and Pakistan. So again, on the non-traditional end, also, if you see China, we are having a problem, with the Brahmaputra river. With Pakistan, we are having a problem on Indus river system. So what is this problem look like? How we are going to tackle it? So we also need to see that, all the major river system in India specifically, which are coming, they are coming from a high altitude, the Himalayas. Okay, so that Himalaya, which is also known as the Hindu Kush Himalayas, HKH. Okay, and this is also known as the Tibet, which is the the water tower of whole Asia. Because just not about India, whole Asia, the gets it's important river source from that high altitude only, because large number of glaciers are there, and that actually makes a way for the rivers, for all the for all the major rivers. For example, the Brahmaputra is coming from there, Indus is coming from there, Ganges is coming from there. So these are the big main rivers which India, India is getting the fresh water availability, and India is actually dependent on these rivers. So you imagine any country which is at a higher level, higher strategic level, if they try to construct a dam over there, how it would impact the lower riparian countries? Definitely, we would loss of water, or sometimes we'll have a lot of water if they will release the water. So that is actually the kind of a problem which we are currently facing with China. And China recently proposed a new dam also, new near the Medong County, which is very much adjacent to the LAC border, 100 kilometers. God knows how they are going to construct that dam, but I have hats off to these Chinese people who are very much extraordinary, marvel in creating these high infrastructure dams on at a very seismic zone area, which is very much dangerous. The moment they announced the dam will come on the Brahmaputra, you see Tibet faced a huge catastrophe earthquake on January 6th. I still remember. It was of a 7.5 magnitude of Richter earthquake. So it's very easy to say things, but it's very difficult to implement them. But on the same hand, we cannot also forget that China has already constructed the world largest dam, which is on the Yangtze River currently. But I have very, India has already given a very strong response to China that we will not accept this unilateral decision by you. There are other lower riparian countries which are which will definitely get impacted. So here in a case, India is not a lower riparian. India is a middle riparian country. Lower riparian would be the Bangladesh, because both India and Bangladesh would get difficulty if the water comes or water gets stopped. So Brahmaputra has lot of things to do with India. Secondly, on Pakistan, you see, we have been, since the time this Indus Water Treaty was signed in 1960, we were very much, our Nehru Prime Minister was very much extra generous to Pakistan, that, we want to have a very peaceful neighbor. Now look at the peaceful neighbor is doing to us. Cross-border terrorism. Since 80s, we are facing this problem. Till now, we are not able to resolve this. We thought that we would give them a lot of, we will do a lot of trade with them. We will try to keep them in with us like brother. But I think that, they don't understand that kind of a language. So that is how, after the Pahalgam incident, our government thought at a very strategically, you see the term abeyance. It has no meaning in the international law. No matter, a country can go to any international law or UN. They would not say anything. We have just suspended. We have not, discarded the whole treaty till the time you will not stop the cross-border terrorism. So now what is the solution? Because you asked me the solution also. See, I'm currently working on one project where I'm actually proposing this, that all the middle riparian countries should come together. So because every riparian country has some kind of duties, its roles, its rules and regulation. So I believe the role of middle riparian country needs to be revived here. All the lower riparian countries should also come together. They should also try to form a charter, a UN charter, so that they can also have some kind of a plea at an international level. There is only one international law, that is 1992, that has been followed in terms of riparian relation. And unfortunately, both India, China, Pakistan are not even a part of that. So you can well imagine things are very difficult. Do you think that China would come and sit and talk with India? That, it's very difficult. We cannot exchange the geographical location at the moment. We do not have any way, but we will have to, turn down this geographical disadvantage into advantage if India can take a lead into this way. So that's where I see that things can be done, and a lot of initiatives, this specifically on Indus Water Treaty, on Brahmaputra River. Our side is also very firm, very strong. We do not have any problem with the funds. It's just we need to implement them at a right time, at a right place, so that everyone feels very happy about what we have done for our nation.
Right. So, and regarding the Brahmaputra, I think this is where Arunachal Pradesh's strategic value comes into play, because I read in the Express, right, that 65% of Brahmaputra's waters generate, or rather originate from its fall from the Arunachal Valley, right, after the Namcha Barwa. It's not, India is not dependent on the Tibetan flow, right? It's dependent on its own monsoon flow. But still, the Indian government has proposed the Upper Siang project in Arunachal, right, to counter or rather control this any outflow from the Chinese, right? So I think that is very important, and yeah, so that is that. Now, moving forward to the India's own neighborhood policies, that is the neighborhood first policy. Do you think that it has been effective to at the scale at which it was envisaged to do? And what key changes would you suggest be made in order to overcome the challenges and enhance its impact better or more effectively?
Okay. So, if you see the India's neighborhood first policy, so I believe that it has not been properly implemented at the moment. Okay. It has been moderately, I would say, effective in strengthening the regional ties, particularly, in terms of infrastructure, if you see, or the trade agreements you see, or the disaster assistance which, one country gives to the another country in terms of the natural hazards, whatever they take up. But the relations with the countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, and the Maldives have improved. But currently, the political, if you just leave the political instability which is there in Bangladesh, but except for that, prior to that, if we see the neighborhood policy actually worked in Bangladesh, they were very much pro to us. Their whole regime was working with the idea of India. Bhutan, you see another case, never ever faced any kind of a situation where they have protested against us or they have had any kind of problem. Maldives, I would say. Why I'm saying Maldives? Because recently, if you say, no matter, Maldives have given a lot of go back India narrative with their president also, calling a pro-China regime. But recently also we have given them a bailout package. So that speaks the volume. It's just not about that, it's just one thing. If you try to plot or plan against us, we will, be totally against us. So that's where the values of Vasudev Kutumbakam comes in. That's where the India values or belief system comes in. And while with the countries like Pakistan also, with before the this 2016, when this Uri attack was not happened, we were very much sure that we want to do a trade with Pakistan. We want to help them. We want to grow together, because we do not want any kind of a violence. We believe in peace and prosperity. We are a country of such big diversity, big population, that we have to see a lot of things which are happening. So we cannot hurt anyone's sentiment just because we are getting some benefit out of it. So similarly, if you see with the country Nepal also, we have been able to work with them. A lot of hydropower projects we have worked with Nepal, although they also tilted towards China, but that's the case. We have been very cautious in that way also with all these countries. No matter there might be any kind of a political influctuation, but sometimes we also keep an eye that we also need to keep an eye that whether these countries are playing safe or not, whether we are safe or not, are we going to hurt and a longer time or not. So I believe that the all this is happening because of the China's growing influence in the South Asia, and that is the major challenge. So I believe, just to enhance this, I would see that we will have to be more closer to the ASEAN countries. Why we are not focusing more towards South Asian countries? So these countries also need to focus on India. We are having ASEAN summit. We are creating young people to people connection. We are doing a lot of exchange programming, but that is not enough. I believe we will have to move more forward than the neighborhood first policy. We will have to counter the Chinese narrative building, which is been the main hurdle for all the countries. So, and more people and people connectivity can be done, because that's where the narrative building change. I'll just give you one example. Recently, Indonesian president came to India. What did he say at the dinner? He said that I have a DNA of India. So that speaks the power. All the examples are there in front of us. So just we need to work on them. Just we need to more than save them, we need to preserve them, so that we can go for a long run. So that's where I believe, and that's the things can be worked upon.
Right, sir. Now, I feel that India has been very proactive while helping out its neighbors and like partners across the world itself. But where India gains special advantage is that it approaches any situation with a humanitarian lens, right? It does not always ask members to be transactional, right? We are not transactional as Chinese might look, right? We also have been signing agreements like long before China has had relations with these nations. So we get a upper hand in that region. And I think we, as you said, that we do not have to save them, we have to preserve them, right? We have to preserve them with our new policies that are coming up, right? Now, that is a very excellent point that you've made. Now, sir, with China has already started giving visas to Indians, and it has also gave us access to the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. And we are seeing a new, a new dawn or new chapter of cooperation and people-to-people engagement. But on the other hand, we are seeing the Chinese supporting Pakistan militarily, economically, and diplomatically. Now, should India-China relations be dehyphenated and addressed separately from their respective ties with Pakistan? Because Pakistan seems to be a bone of contention when it comes to India-China relations, apart from the LAC issue that we have. Like, what is your perspective on that?
Okay, so I know that this is very much in the news currently, and India actually granted the access to the Kailash Yatra, and it's a very positive gesture, to be very frankly, because our Indians, they believe in a lot of they believe in culture, they believe in a lot of worship, okay, and a lot of rivers, ancient places are actually built on that reference only. So for Indians, it's a very positive gesture, I would say, which is actually signaling towards the the potential of soft power diplomacy, what China did actually here in this, because people to people engagement is happening. So that's what my previous point was, that if you want to come out of more actionable form of policy, people to people engagement is the first line of engagement that can be done. But here is a lot of symbolic thing which we also need to be very much careful when we are talking about China. Our past has not been that good what it seems to be today. Our growing relation has always been with a limited trust. Whenever we have tried to show kind of a trust or working together with China, they have always backstabbed us. Look at the war from 1962. The same thing happened. Look at the things what they did to Tibetans. Dalai Lama, His Holiness, has to fled and be here at India. So we cannot trust China fully, but also on the other way around. You mentioned about the border issues. Yes, just not about in 2020. You see, China also tried to poke us in 2017 when the Doklam issue happened, and then at that point of a time, they stopped their sharing the river data sharing with us, but they were sharing to a lower riparian country, Bangladesh. So how that works with China? We cannot trust them. They give us an example that due to a certain level of mechanical or logistical reason, we were not able to provide you the real time data, but they were providing it to the Bangladesh. So do you think that and the data which is again coming from them, do you think that it is very much trustable? No, not at all. It's very much manipulative. We don't know what happens in China. The number of people died from Chinese, they still have a figure of number 3 to 4. But what is actual number? We all don't know. Different reports come. They have stopped recognizing their own soldiers just to build their narrative building, and just to work on the psychological warfare. They have taken up the stones from Galwan to their countries, that we are proud winners of the Galwan standoff. So look at the hypocrisy of China here. In this way, in this certain way, in their winter in their Olympics also, recent Olympics also, the colonel who was commanding at Galwan from Chinese side, he was the torch bearer at that winter Olympics in China. So what exactly is signaling to this kind of a strategy? We will don't have to see the present, we'll have to see the long game here. How does China strategically thinks? How does China strategically works? They're very, very far ahead in that game. So that's where we need to work on, I believe. And I've met a couple of Chinese people. They talk very sweet in front of you, but we never know how strategically they would be thinking. So I believe India has take its step very, very cautiously here. And India must pursue this engagement with very caution, I would say, and ensuring our core interest, and they should not be compromised, I would say. No matter, we'll take a lot of measures, but they should not be compromised. With this Kailash also, we are also talking about that we will also now start the direct flight from India to Beijing. That is also under the way. We are also working on the idea of that we will start now renewing the MOUs which are already expired in 2023 between the water sharing data, which is the main thing. We have not renewed, we have not worked on that idea. But the point is, we should not compromise. We should move ahead very, very cautiously. We have learned a lesson in the back, and I think this is the time. This is a new India. We should move ahead very, very cautiously with this way.
Right, sir. And I think because China has been such a large economy for a longer time, right? We cannot actually ignore it. We need it, like, however bad it may sound, that we need the Chinese manufacturers. We need the Chinese middle tech imports, right, for our own industries to thrive. So we cannot obviously ignore them. We have to just work with them cautiously, because we know the Chinese and the Indian history, right? It is no different from the Indian and the Pakistani history together. Now, when you mentioned the Galwan issue, the psychological operations that the Chinese were playing at that time, and the only authoritative report that we have of the Chinese losses is from an Australian broadcast site, which said that the Chinese lost around 45 soldiers, right, and India lost around 20 soldiers. So I'm not sure how the Chinese are dividing it by 10 and saying that only 4 soldiers were killed and others were not. And relating to that, only my next question comes, like, India showed a very strong defense capabilities when it came to the Operation Sindhu, right? Now, during that time as well, Pakistanis and the Chinese were quick to challenge India's own internal security by spreading false narratives, right? That we have downed 7 fighter jets, 5 Rafales, one MiG-30, and all of that stuff. What effective strategies can India adopt to control such propaganda and safeguard its internal security apparatus? Because we see that the Pakistani and the Chinese have a firewall system, right? They censor information, but India cannot do that. And since India is such a large country with like more than a 1.5 billion people, it's very difficult to vet every information that's coming from the borders. So what's the way out of it?
Okay, so first of all, I want to congratulate here the Indian government, because they strategically, started this Operation Sindhu. And look at the kind of a whole mechanism which was put in, whether it just to, inform the media personnel, whether just to, do the operations. Each and every defense personnel was involved in it. They worked tirelessly, towards to achieving this goal. And we have to do it. We cannot, with this just a big population, with this just kind of a big morale, we cannot let our people, sad about situation what Pakistani did to us just in the name of religion. It's really a high time, and that is why we have taken a strong decision of abeyance of Indus Water Treaty first. Secondly, we have instrumentally we worked on this Operation Sindoor. And this name itself symbolizes a lot in Indian mythology. So, and yeah, I was also leading up the news, and I was very much shocked at that moment that how much the fake narrative or the agenda was put in, just so that people should feel demotivated. So I believe just to counter these disinformation and just to safeguard the internal security, India should adopt a multi-layered strategy here. Just not one thing will work. I mentioned about civil military fusion also. That is one part which is actually lacking. We can work on this part. Secondly, I believe that this would also require the strengthening of our cyber capabilities. How much we are visible in the digital forensics, how much we are able to give. Whenever the news comes, why do we feel that USA is far ahead of us? Because US foreign policy, the soft power works more than us. Look at the news channel, whatever they portray, people start believing, because they have that kind of a belief and trust system on their soft power. So that's where we need to work on. Secondly, third point, I believe that our intelligence and media monitoring agencies, they should also work together, because most of the time what happens, just in terms of politics narrative, left wing, right wing, whatever they are showing, it actually makes the person feel very very disadvantageous position, where our own country people feel that we are not worth of anything. Why we are losing a war? We have lot of weaponry system, we have largest army, we have largest defense system, why we are losing a war. So just to make everyone equal, just to make everyone safe in our own country, where diverse religion people are country of people are staying, we need to work on all these things. We also need to work on public awareness. There's a lot of propaganda campaigns which made, the literacy programs can also be done in that, so that the harmful content should not reach to the public. And it can also, and all these things should also happen with the law abiding thing. It should not that, our people or the just in the name of public awareness we are, obstructing the law. It should not happen in that way also. So I believe that strategic communication and the proactive transparency is the key currently, which the government is currently working. And this will definitely try to work on the hostile narrative, which we have seen in the case of recent India-Pakistan case, and with the China, of course, we experience every time. But we are able to counter it. That's our the best part. But we will have to work and think ahead like them also. That's the need of the hour.
Right. So I think the government will do it, like it will play its part. But as citizens, we have to work on our digital literacy as well. Like in India, digital literacy is like anything, like it's like a gin out of a bottle, right? We don't know what information is true and what is not. We do not know how to verify it. We just simply believe it because the voice is saying that yes, this is true. We do not know where this information is coming from. I think that should be a focus for our youth as well in rural areas, in more disadvantageous areas, that they should not fall for this trap, right?
Right.
People who are watching it after a day's work, those who do not know what digital manipulation is, they have to look after it. They have to vet it themselves first, and then they have to see that yes, if this is true or this is not, right? Now, finally, sir, what strategic moves should India take to effectively checkmate its adversaries while maintaining its collaboration with friendly nations and also preventing them from China's assertiveness that we are seeing in, let's say, Myanmar, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan? Like what to do with that?
Okay, so I believe that currently whatever the India is doing is very good. But apart from that, also India should adopt a very balanced strategy, because it's just not about always about hard power. It's these days it's in the geopolitics. It is all about the smart diplomacy. So both the combination of the hard power with the smart diplomacy is the key, and that too, adopting a very balanced strategy. And specifically if we talk about in military readiness, we will have to ready our forces on the borders across all the fronts, whether it is two front, three front. We will have to work on all the sides of the borders, so that anytime if anything happens, our forces are ready to action. Okay. Secondly, I believe that while deepening defense and intelligence cooperation, also we also need some kind of a like-minded partners also, like US. Although we cannot truly trust in the US these days, what is happening in the current scenario, but we will have to keep them on our side. Japan is another ally. Australia is one of them. So all of these countries are also a part of Quad, but apart from that also, we will have to work with them in terms of maritime defense, diplomacy, so that we can work on enhancing our strategic leverage. They should not feel that we are totally dependent on them. They should also feel that we are also equal partners. Okay. And I also see that India must also invest in the regional connectivity, what I mentioned about in my previous answer, that ASEAN is the key. Why we are not focusing on the ASEAN countries? These countries have a huge potential, and they are facing the same threat, China. So enemies is friend. Why we are not working on that idea? Chanakya has said long time back. So that is where I believe that we will have to work on that, and other regional forums also, like SARC. But SARC is, I would say, totally in the cold box right now. But apart from that, BIMSTEC could be one of the main the regional forum where things can work with a lot of reforms. And I believe lastly that India is a very trusted partner in the whole South Asia. All countries are currently looking into India's side. how we are economically growing also, apart from all the South Asian countries. World Bank has also stated that there would be no inflation more, but we would be growing with a pace of 7% of GDP. So that shows that no matter we are having a lot of problems, no matter we have a huge population, but we as an Indian can really work on that idea. We can work on these challenges, and this is the time where we can turn all these challenges into opportunity, where we can keep all the neighboring countries in favor of us. But that would be a challenge, but similarly our try would be the bestest of the best. So that's where I see, and that's the thing I have to mention.
Right, so those are very important points that you mentioned. Additionally, I think when we speak about keeping our allies on our side, it really broke my heart when I saw Mr. Trump saying that he has brokered this ceasefire between India and Pakistan, while India was saying that there was no third party intervention from it. Then we see the Pakistani general, rather the fateful field marshal now having dinner in the White House. I have never seen a US president hosting another country's chief of army staff for a dinner, right, without their own head of state present there. Now, and on the other hand, we see the French and the Japanese who are asking for for insights on the intact Chinese missile that was PL-15E that India recovered from Punjab, right, during Operation Sindoor. So I think these are two. This is a spectrum of our allies, right? The one side says that yes, we are with you, just you are our equal, and we will just have partnership. The other side says that we'll dictate the terms. You can take it or lose it. I think we have to work on the latter part more. The former is working fine as of now. Now, and with that, we will conclude this interesting conversation, which was made even more enriching with Mr. Neeraj's invaluable insights on the region. I hope this will help out our audience to make clearer sense of the evolving situation in South Asia and what it takes to bring peace and security to it. I thank you, sir, for taking the time out and speaking with us. It was a pleasure hosting you and looking forward to future collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you, Digvijay, and thank you so much, Team GeoStrata, for hosting me. Thanks. It was lovely connecting with you. Thank you.